House of Cards is brought to you by Drizzly, your online liquor store. Available in over 95 cities across North America, Drizzly offers a huge selection and competitive pricing with a side of personalized content. Now there's no need to leave the house. Get alcohol delivered in less than an hour by Drizzly. Head on over to drizzly.com and order today. And now get $5 off your first order of $20 or more when using promo code DRINK19 at checkout. Shop beer, wine, and liquor with drizzly.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls,
you're listening to House of Cards.
Today, the game is different.
I want to gamble. Gambling is a very serious business. Is that clear?
Welcome to House of Cards. Dave Weishaupt with you here, deep from the swamps of Jersey. We got a great show coming up for you. I love books about the gambling industry, and I just read one that's an incredible look at how casinos handle security and collect debts from their customers who are a little reluctant to pay their bills. The name of the book is Joe's Dash, from $1 Million Drug Busts to Multi-Million Collections for Las Vegas Casinos. The book is the story about Joe Dorsey, who rose through the ranks of the San Diego Police Department, then moved to Vegas to handle security and debt collection for some of the biggest casinos in the world. And we are lucky to have the subject of this great book as a guest this week. After this break, Joe Dorsey's coming on and telling us some of his incredible stories from the gambling world. So stick around. We'll be right back with House of Cards.
I owed the IRS $10,000.
The IRS garnished my wages.
They put a lien on my house.
I'm self-employed and didn't report all my income. They claim I owe a lot more than I do.
The IRS is the most powerful collection agency in the world. They do not give up until you pay.
I couldn't sleep. We were being audited. I called Tax Solutions Now, and a great big weight was lifted off my shoulders.
I called Tax Solutions Now, and they got the IRS off my back.
Tax Solutions Now had my wage garnishment lifted in 48 hours.
Tax Solutions Now can get you help. Our agents know the rules, can stop the pain, and get you the best deal.
Tax Solutions Now saved my business.
I qualified for the Fresh Start program. I paid less than I owed.
We connect you with a team of former IRS agents and tax professionals who get the IRS off your back. Time is running out. Call Tax Solutions now.
Call 800-297-9788. 800-297-9788.
Psst. Yeah, you. Come here. Haven't you heard? We don't need to hide anymore. Now, we can shop privately for adult products at adamandeve.com. They've got massage oils, lingerie, and lots more we can't mention here. Use the offer code SPICE404. They'll give you 50% off almost any one item, 3 free DVDs, free mystery gift, and free shipping. That's 50% off, free shipping, and more. Private shopping starts at adamandeve.com.
Is your bathroom looking old and worn out? Want to update it, but you don't know where to start? Then let BCI Bath & Shower show you how to turn that old bath into an aisle of beauty and functionality. Our residential bathroom solutions provide the best value on the market, and our customer service is second to none. Our cost-effective BCI Bath & Shower family of products has what you need.
Remodeling our bathroom was a big decision for us.
They didn't make a mess out of our house at all. And at the end of the day, we had a beautiful new bathroom. And it was a great experience the whole way through.
We have the best monthly payment programs in the industry, with payments as low as $68 per month or no interest, no payments for 18 months. For a limited time, be one of the first 100 callers who schedule a free in-home consultation and receive $500 off. Call 1-800-594-9530. 1-800-594-9530. Factory-trained and certified installers made in the USA and discounts for seniors and military. BCI Bath and Shower, the leader in affordable bathroom products.
You're listening to the House of Cards.
You lose track of time in those casinos. There's no windows, there's no clocks, and you never walk away from the table when you're on a heater.
Welcome back to House of Cards. Dave Weishottle with you. I'm excited to talk to our next guest because he is the subject of an incredible book I just read. The name of the book is called Joe's Dash, From $1 Million Drug Busts to Multi-Million-Dollar Collections for Las Vegas Casinos. And it's all about Joe Dorsey, from his rise as a San Diego police officer to working with some of the biggest casino properties in the world. And to tell us all about his life and his book, Joe Dorsey is on the line with us right now. Joe, thanks for coming on.
Well, it's a pleasure to be here.
I got to tell you, I really love Joe's Dash. It gives you an insight on some of the casino business that no one really gets to see. How did this project come about?
Well, the project came about, my wife was been after me for many years, as other people, to write a book. I really wasn't interested until Karen met Linda Ellis, who wrote the famous poem called The Dash. And Linda talked to me and said, about 10 years ago about doing a book. And I really don't want to do it. And so I got sick for about 3 years. I was, on life support 3 times. And my poor wife, she went through it all. And Linda came back to town. And Linda said, look, I'll do the book for you. And I'm thinking, well, I'll let you know. And then my wife came to me that night. And she says, you going to take Linda up on writing the book with you? And I said, well, and as I can do sometimes, I was hemming and hawing. And she looked up at me and said, would you do it for me? Well, you know what happened after that.
Oh, absolutely.
I got a book. So that's basically how it started.
Like I said, it's an incredible book, and it details your absolute incredible life. I mean, you grew up as far away from the glitter of the Las Vegas Strip as you can get. What was it like growing up where you grew up in Cleveland?
Well, I grew up in the projects. I mean, it was a large Catholic family. There were 8 kids, my parents and grandmother living in public housing, and that I believe it had, if I can remember, had 3 bedrooms. But we eventually finally got out of the projects and ended up, my dad bought a house out in the suburbs. And when I was 11, my father passed away. And my mother began drinking heavily. And next thing I know, we're back in the projects. Mm-hmm. So I was in the projects, and she had a serious problem. She'd disappear for days. And I had 3 siblings, and I was the oldest at 11 and 12. And there were times when she would be gone, and we didn't have food. We didn't have anything. My older sister, Mary Jo, stopped one day. And I can recall it, just like it was yesterday. It was on a Friday night. She looked around and she started checking refrigerators and cupboards, and, the cupboards were bare. So that was it. Her and my older sister took us, Mary Jo and my sister took myself and my younger sister, and the 2 younger boy and girl, Tim and Julianne, were taken by our older sister, Betty. And it was a life-saving moment for that to happen, because I was being supported by, trying to get food on the table from a friend of mine who was a burglar.
Oh, wow.
And he saw how destitute we were. And so he'd stop by, you need money, kid? And, of course, I took it. So got out of there, got back living with my sister in a regimented home with, regular duties. And as a kid, you got chores and stuff. And
sure.
I grew up with them and ended up at 18 going into the service, went into the Navy. And of course it was about 5 below zero in Cleveland. And I got to the recruiter, and he said, "Where would you like to go to boot camp?" And that surprised me. And I said, "What do you got?" And he said, "I have Great Lakes." Well, I know that's Chicago. Mm-hmm. And I said, "Well, just like Chicago out here." And he says, "How about San Diego?" And I didn't know where it was, basically in California, but I knew it didn't snow there.
Yeah.
And so off I went. Boot camp there, got stationed at the Naval Air Station across the bay, North Island, and ended up having a great time in the military. I think everybody should spend some time in the military. If they're in the war, got promoted and did things, and basically got out. In fact, I was in Japan when President Kennedy was killed, and it was remarkable, the response from the Japanese people. Got out of the Navy, got a letter from the Army telling me to come to the recruiter's office, which time I went down and asked him what this was about. And he says, "Well, with your MOS, which is your job code number, on those secret helicopters," he said, "we're going to make you a warrant officer and let you fly Hueys." And this is in 1964. Now, I had been through the Far East and met some intelligence guys that told me about the problems with Vietnam, and they were coming. They were going to happen. And so I knew that I didn't want to fly Hueys in the Army with what was coming. Coast Guard recruiter was there. He said, "Look, we're getting those same helicopters. We have nobody in the Coast Guard knows anything about these things. They'll be trained, of course, but what's it going to take to get you?" And I basically said, I want the same rank. I want guaranteed flight pay, which was a big deal.
Yeah.
And 4 years in San Diego. And that's what happened. And in the Coast Guard, it was probably the most rewarding job I ever had.
Okay, hold that thought. We're going to take a quick break. See you on the other side.
Attention seniors with Medicare. This is an important announcement. Did you know you may qualify for a monthly Social Security rebate? Did you know you may qualify for a $0 monthly premium? That's right. You may qualify to get $135 added back to your Social Security check each month. Just call the Medicare benefits line to get your options. It's a free call. You may also qualify for $0 premiums, dental coverage, vision coverage, hearing coverage, and prescription drug coverage. With this type of plan, you don't need Medicare supplement insurance. Call now because you deserve to get the most from your Medicare benefits, including a rebate to your Social Security check each month. Agents are standing by with free information regarding Medicare benefits. It's a free call with no obligation, but it could mean big savings for you. Call the Medicare benefits line now to see if you're eligible for a Social Security rebate.
Call 800-574-6770. 800-574-6770.
You're listening to House of Cards. Check out our website at houseofcardsradio.com.
Welcome back to House of Cards. Dave Weishottle with you. For those of you just joining us, I am talking with Joe Dorsey, the subject of the book Joe's Dash, From $1 Million Drug Busts to Multi-Million Dollar Collections for the Las Vegas Casinos. You really seem to find a home in San Diego. I mean, after your Coast Guard, it led you to a job in law enforcement. What did you do in law enforcement?
Well, and of course, like everybody else, I went to, through the police academy, came out, and I worked uniform for 4 years. Part of that time in uniform, I was assigned to an organization that San Diego Police Department, the only police department the country had, was called a Secondary School Task Force. There was one of 16 officers, 2-man teams were assigned. We had 2 high schools and 2 junior highs. That our job was just to go to those schools, give talks, handle any policing problems there. When I first went, to be honest with you, I thought, man, I don't want to go out and babysit a bunch of kids. I did.
Yeah.
That's how I felt. But I got there, and you have to understand, after working the streets for 3 years, you get pretty cynical.
Mm-hmm.
And so I got there and started to meet these kids, and they understood what I was doing. I understood what they were doing. And the thing that probably pushed me over the top, and this was in 1972, I think. But anyway, we put classes together, and we spoke at them, and they could ask us anything they wanted, and we'd be honest with them. And we asked, how many people in here want to legalize marijuana? And I was shocked when it was probably 90% of the kids didn't want it legalized.
Really?
And I thought, these kids are pretty smart.
Yeah.
So the thing that happened with these kids is they began to trust us. They started bringing things to us. And if they brought them to a teacher, the teacher would have to identify who brought it to them.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't. We didn't have to do it. So these problems you see today in these schools with the shootings and everything, it has one common denominator. The kids knew about it.
Mm-hmm.
They knew that these guys were making threats. They knew they were doing this and that. So I got promoted detective out of there, and I went to burglary, petty thefts, breaking into your house, things like that,
mm-hmm.
crimes against property. And then I was assigned to the narcotics unit, which surprised me. And from narcotics unit, the police department's unit was just underfunded like crazy.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we had to borrow things from other agencies to get the job done. But San Diego it was a pretty smart chief of police that thought, let's put the sheriffs and the cops together, narcotics. Mm-hmm. And then we'll quit spinning our wheels doing the same cases. And then when DEA was formed in 73, DEA decided they wanted to be part of this, and they wanted to fund it, which was great for us, because when I was with the police department, we never got paid overtime.
Mm-hmm.
We only got compensatory time. And under federal law, they had to pay us time and a half. And, to us, it was like, dying and going to heaven. And we got brand new undercover cars every year, state-of-the-art radios, the facilities we had everybody you can think of that was in the task force, from ATF, U.S. Marshals, United States Attorney's Office, some of the small towns in California were in it, and it ballooned up to 55-man operation. I met my partner in narcotics when I went to narcotics. I had forgot that I'd met him before on an operation when he was with SEAL teams and I was in the Coast Guard. And he remembered it, and being the two new guys, we were partners, and we excelled. I mean, we really excelled at narcotic enforcement. We were canceling cases. We got an award one year for a Class 1 violator with the Drug Enforcement Administration is the top guy. Mm-hmm. You can't get higher than him. And we got called in one time, and the chief of police was there, the sheriff, and the regional director from DEA. And I'm thinking, what did my partner do? So anyway, we ended up getting an award for, in a 9-month period, we arrested 6 Class 1 violators.
I got to tell you, I read the book, and you had some pretty interesting drug cases that you were involved with, and some pretty dangerous situations. But the one that stuck out to me was the guy that actually drove up to the police station and showed you the amount of pot in his car. I mean, back right after I graduated law school, I worked in the DA's office in Boston, and I would love a case like that. But was that your best day ever on the job?
Yeah, that was one of. I thought it was. See, if you were with San Diego PD, one week a year, you had to go down to the station and test dope that was recovered by the patrol uniform guys, and to make sure it is so you could take the complaint over to the DA and file it. The phone rang, and it was my week, and the guy said, "Hey, I heard about this. Do the Mexicans, are they spraying marijuana with paraquat?" And I said, "Yes, they are." And he says, "Well, how can I get it tested?" I said, "Well, we test it." and the guy says, "You do?" I said, "Sure." I said, "Just come on down to the police station at, Market and Pacific Coast Highway and go to the business office out front and tell the officer you want me." And I thought it was one of my guys from the task force playing a joke on me.
Yeah, no, that was too good to be true.
Yeah, the guy shows up, and we're talking in the office, and there's a uniformed guy there, and he's talking, and I says, "Well, yeah, we can do it. Where's your stuff? Where's your marijuana?" And I expected him to reach in his pocket to pull out a baggie of weed, and he says, "Come on." And I told the uniform, "Come on along. I don't know what this is about." And kid popped the trunk, and I think there were 30 kilos of marijuana in the trunk. So I arrested him. And he said, "This is entrapment." I said, "Nah, look at you, parked right in front of a sign that says San Diego Police Department." I said, "Come on, don't even go there." But I did, you being a deputy DA, you go to issuing, and I'm sure it's the same all over the country.
Sure.
The new guy get issuing. Mm-hmm. That's who you get. You get the new guys you're learning. So I took it to the guy, and he wasn't going to issue it. He said, "No, this can't be right." And one of the senior DAs came in, and he told him that, "Nah, I suggest you issue it." So he issued it. Another time that I think was one of my best there were 2 other times. The one time is when the Border Patrol caught a guy up on Interstate 5 north of San Diego, and the guy had, I think he had 120 or 150 kilos of weed in the trunk. And I was a duty agent, so I had to go up and process him and process the dope. And the story he told about being in the movie business and working with special effects, he pulled this con on his drug dealer that he had for many years. He couldn't pay for the drugs, so they robbed the guy. What happened is I convinced the guy that I'd cut him loose if he returned the dope to the dope dealer that he bought it from down in San Diego. And he gave me the guy's name, and the guy was a Class 1 violator. Now, I'm thinking, do I care about this 150 kilos or the guy who I know is a heavy-duty dealer? So I rehearsed him all night. He called the guy that went to my boss in the morning because I was up all night and said, "Look, I got this deal, and here's what I want to do." He said, "Are you crazy?" He says, "We're in the business of seizing dope, not giving it back." And I says, "Listen to me. Here's the guy who he robbed." Took it to the bosses, and they came out, and they put some conditions on it. But anyway, as a long story short, we had him give him the dope, and out in the beach area of San Diego, had him give the dealer the dope, apologize for what happened, and we followed the guy back to his place. But it got a little hairy. We lost him just before. We didn't know where he was going, and we had an airplane up and a surveillance team, and we lost him. But a few minutes later, they found him getting out of the car in a rural area, and we ended up seizing 1,000 pounds of marijuana and an unusual heavy-duty amount of cocaine and thousands of dollars in cash.
We'll be right back with House of Cards.
I owed the IRS $10,000.
The IRS garnished my wages.
They put a lien on my house.
I'm self-employed and didn't report all my income. They claim I owe a lot more than I do.
The IRS is the most powerful collection agency in the world. They do not give up until you pay.
I couldn't sleep. We were being audited. I called Tax Solutions Now, and a great big weight was lifted off my shoulders.
I called Tax Solutions Now, and they got the IRS off my back.
Tax Solutions Now had my wage garnishment lifted in 48 hours.
Tax Solutions Now can get you help. Our agents know the rules, can stop the pain, and get you the best deal.
Tax Solutions Now saved my business.
I qualified for the Fresh Start program. I paid less than I owed.
We connect you with a team of former IRS agents and tax professionals who get the IRS off your back. Time is running out. Call Tax Solutions now.
Call 800-297-9788. 800-297-9788.
Hey, this is Dave Weishottle from House of Cards with your House of Cards gaming report for the week of November 15th, 2021. The National Football League announced a multi-year licensing deal with Aristocrat Gaming. Under the deal, Aristocrat will have the exclusive license to create NFL-themed slot machines, as well as a non-exclusive license to create virtual sports games. The slots, which will allow customers to customize their games to reflect their favorite football teams, could hit casino floors by the start of the 2023 NFL season. Jackpocket announced that a customer in New Jersey has won $9.4 million using their app. According to the company, this is the largest amount ever won on any gaming platform in the United States. The Union County, New Jersey winner won the jackpot playing the New Jersey Pick 6 Lotto. This year alone, Jackpocket has seen nearly 630,000 winners, with 7,000 of those winners winning $100 or more. And finally, if you're looking for a summer job, you might want to check out Stations Casinos. Recently, the casino company announced the return of their summer internship program. The 12-week program is for undergraduate students, pays $15 an hour, and includes meals and housing at the Green Valley Ranch, Red Rock Casino, Palace Station, or Sunset Station. Sounds like a great summer job. Have any news or tips regarding casinos, gaming, or legislation? Send us an email at newsroom@houseofcardsradio.com and follow us on Twitter at HOC Radio.
You're listening to the House of Cards.
Well, don't take it too hard. I've done a lot of stupid things in my life, too.
Stupid? What do you mean, stupid?
Welcome back to House of Cards. Dave Weishottle with you. For those of you just joining us, I am talking with Joe Dorsey, the subject of the book Joe's Dash, From $1 Million Drug Busts to Multi-Million-Dollar Collections for the Las Vegas Casinos. I want to ask you about your move to the Nevada Gaming Control Board in the 1980s.
Right.
You started working there. How did you make that move? How did a law enforcement officer in San Diego get involved with the Nevada Gaming Control Board?
Well, I was working robbery after narcotics, and I had an agent from the Gaming Control Board come in, and I was the only guy in the office, and he was doing a background on a guy from San Diego who was trying to get a gaming license. And he didn't know what to do, so I said, come on, I'll take you down. We went to records, and we did everything for him, and I was asking, what do you guys do? And, they travel worldwide, and they do all this stuff, and they don't need search warrants, and they don't need to deal with judges. And so he mentioned that he had this guy had lived in a foreign country. And I said, you got somebody to help you with that? And he said, no. So I called my contact in that foreign country and got him the information he needed. And he went back and told his boss. Said, they got this guy in San Diego. And it was working narcotics with all these DEA guys, ATF, all these guys. I had contacts worldwide. So they made me a job offer. My wife was a singer, and she signed a contract with the MGM on the same day that I started with the Nevada Gaming Control Board. San Diego didn't pay well in those days, and going to the Gaming Control Board, I got a $5,000 a year raise and another raise because there were no state income tax. So I enjoyed it. I mean, I went everywhere.
What were your duties at the Nevada Gaming Control Board?
Well, I was an agent, investigations division, in the license division, doing background investigations on applicants, whether they be junket reps who have to be licensed or people on the board of directors and or the actual owners of the casinos. And you would investigate people that had association with the mob back then, and but you would investigate back about 25 years. So you would go out and go to the cities where they lived and go to the colleges where they said they graduated from, which is another story. Then I'd come back and write a comprehensive report for the Gaming Control Board members to make a decision on whether to approve them or not to. And then from there it would go to the Gaming Commission where they had the final say-so whether the guy got licensed or not.
You know, I was struck by the amount of traveling you had to do for the Gaming Control Board. And in fact, in the book, you said you were just returning home from an investigation you were doing in Australia when you were offered the job of Director of Security at the Hilton Corporation. Was it a difficult decision to leave the Nevada Gaming Control Board and go take a job at Hilton?
Not really. You know, I really didn't know about it. A friend of mine knew about the job there. In fact, I got him a job at the gaming board. The gaming board, you know, it was, in those days, it was, I had 5 chiefs in 5 years. You know, the turnover rate, usually you get a chief for 20 years in law enforcement. I was concerned about the future, but I knew that gaming would expand in Las Vegas. I had no doubts in my mind. And when I heard of the Hilton, and I told them I was interested, and I was interviewed by Henry Lewin and Barron. You know, just took off from there. Then I joined up with Dennis Gomes, and I'm sure some of your listeners back in the East Coast know who Dennis Gomes is, and what a great boss he was. You know, people don't realize that Dennis Gomes was in the movie Casino. He was the one that found the information about all the skimming going on. And when he was with the Gaming Control Board, he wasn't there when I was there. He left a year before I got there. But what an incredible boss. He knew I knew what I was doing at the Hilton, and he stole me away when he got hired at the Aladdin. He said, look, you can, whatever you want, I'll give it to you, but I want you to come with me. And we did, and I took some of the people from the Hilton with me, and it was a short-lived. It was the first Japanese owner of a casino in Las Vegas. He really didn't understand. He thought, you know, if you open the doors, there's going to be money pouring in every day. Didn't realize you really had to work to get those customers in.
Yeah.
So we kind of, Dennis fell out of favor with them, and we weren't too concerned about it because the Gaming Control Board wanted us to be in there because Dennis's history with the board, mine, they felt comfortable there wasn't going to be any funny business going on if we were in there. So, but we informed them. They're the first people we informed we were leaving. We're going to the dunes, to another Japanese owner. The owner, he was a gambler himself, and we had a bunch of customers come in playing baccarat, big players. $12 million we had access to that with play that, you know, we possibly could have won. And he comes down and he's talking to all the players because he knows them. They're Japanese too. And what's he do? He takes the players down to the dunes and lets them win the $12 million. so he could sit with them and play with them. Now, that's kind of stupid.
Yeah, real stupid.
We got into the dunes, and the dunes was a mess. The dunes have always been a mess. Nobody put any money in it and stuff like that. And we started bringing in some big players, and we started doing okay. And then the process of getting things done with the Japanese is difficult. Casinos, you make a decision right now. Am I going to give this guy $1 million in credit, or am I going to do this, do that? That's immediate. With the Japanese, it would have to go to a committee in Japan. By the time you get the information back, the guy's dead.
Yeah.
And Steve Wynn knew he was. Dennis formed a company called Clark Management, and there were about 6 of us in it. And Steve Wynn was just finishing up the Mirage, and he knew that 90% of his staff was going to leave the Golden Nugget. And the Golden Nugget was a nice property. So he hired Dennis, and we all went down there to the Golden Nugget, and, through the transition of people going to the Mirage.
Mm-hmm.
That's when I first got into the collection business.
Yeah, I want to ask you about your collection work in a little bit, but I want to ask you, talk about shady dealings. When you started working for the Tropicana, you discovered some scams and stealing from the casino that was actually being done by the staff. Can you explain what was going on with the staff at the Tropicana that you found out about?
Yeah. Dennis went to work at Taj Mahal, came back, and I was working for International Game Technology back then as the director of corporate security. So I know Dennis is going to call me. I know he's going to call me and want me to come back, because the Trop's been notorious for crooks.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the owners were mob guys for years. He calls, we cut a deal. I go over there. In the first 15 minutes, I went down to the marketing VP, who was a friend of mine. He's part of Dennis's crew. And I said, bring up some play on the crap game. And he did. And I said, stop right there. Look at that. I said, they got a guy betting $250 a hand, and we're going from the ratings, $250 a hand for 18 hours. And my response was, he better be in a wheelchair, because I don't know anybody who can do that. And reviewed the surveillance tape, because I was over surveillance there and over security, and found out that there was nobody on the game. The game was closed most of the time. So what I found is they had a rating scam going on, and it was the pit bosses. What they would do is they would add a guy as a customer and get him a card that he can swipe for, his play, his ratings. Well, what they were doing is they were putting in phony names, running the cards through the games to build up the ratings for these guys would be RFB, room, food, and beverage. And some of them were airfare. They were so big.
Wow.
And they were selling those cards and the names to people for about $600-700, and they come in and they could stay as long as they wanted, and got comp rooms, comp beverage, comp shows. Some even got comp there, but it was all phony people. These people weren't real. That's the first thing I found. And the second thing is that in the slot areas, well, let me get back to the casino. Then you had the dealers, especially the crap dealers. The crap dealers were hustling the hell out of the customers. What I mean by hustling, they're saying, hey, bet for us, do this, do that. Yeah, bet for the boys. It's called a hard hustle,
mm-hmm.
And so I set up a test. I brought a guy in who knew craps. I says, you don't do anything what they tell you to do. And I gave him $1,000. And I said, go down and play. And he went down and played, did everything they did, and in an hour we shut the game down. The actual game had $48 dropped in the box in an hour, and then we went in the tip box, and it was $460 in the tip box, because they were hustling him so hard, he was doing everything they said. So that was another problem. They were driving customers away. Met with them, said, look, the fun's over. This is it. You start dealing regular like you should be dealing. You'd be bringing in quality players, and those players are going to take care of you. You're running people out of the place. In fact, I had a saying that I wanted to put a poster by the business, where they check in to go to work, time office. Quit stealing. The mob went home. So I grabbed a bunch of them. Then I got into the slot department. There was another false rating crap going on in there. Then we had internal theft from others in the slot department. I had a lady. This is my favorite one. I was on a collection trip, came back, and my surveillance director, and I brought all these directors of mine in, to take care of the place when I was gone. Said, look, we got some suspicious activity in the main coin booth. And that's where they stored all the bags of the silver dollars for the slot machines. When they were running low, a floor person would be called. He'd come over, sign for a bag of 500 coins, and go put them in a slot machine. Well, the one guy went up and he started to leave with the bag in his hand. He says, wait a minute, this thing's light. And he reported to the surveillance director. We set up cameras on the woman. She was on vacation. When she came back, we saw her messing with the bags. I said, that's enough. Get her in here. So we got her in, started interviewing her. And she was an elderly woman. And I said, look, here's the deal. I don't have time for this. I mean, I got all kinds of fires going on. I said, you tell me who's involved with you and how you're getting into those bags to remove that coin, and I won't charge you. I won't have you prosecuted. I won't even tell the gaming authorities. She was reluctant, and I told her, I said, man, I've made deals like this my whole life in law enforcement, so I'm being honest with you. I'm not lying. You got witnesses here. And so because I needed to know how those seals were getting out those bags, because the other employees who worked the booth probably know it too. She explained that on the older bags, you could spin the seal off and then spin it back on. So at the end there, I said, okay, you're terminated. I'm keeping my deal with you. And I said, how much did you normally take? I think she had about $250 on her when we grabbed her. She was halfway through the shift. She says, about $450. And I said, every day? She says, yeah, every day.
Wow.
And I asked her, how long have you been doing this? She said, 11 years.
Wow. Unbelievable.
So she had taken over $1 million. And, of course, I got a deal with her. And plus, I'm new there. I wasn't there when all this was transpiring. And they have audit units and people that supposed to take care of that. All I wanted to do was stop it now. So I lived up to my end of the bargain.
We'll be right back with House of Cards.
Haven't you heard? We don't need to hide anymore. Now, we can shop privately for adult products at adamandeve.com. They've got massage oils, lingerie, and lots more we can't mention here. Use offer code SPICE404. They'll give you 50% off almost any one item, 3 free DVDs, free mystery gift, and free shipping. That's 50% off, free shipping, and more. Private shopping starts at adamandeve.com.
You're listening to House of Cards.
You are more in need of a night in Atlantic City than any man I've ever met. I'd say sit down at a table, go for dinner, see a show, take a walk on the boardwalk and smell the salt air. But if you're anything like me, nothing after sit down at a table is going to happen.
Welcome back to House of Cards. Dave Weishottle with you. For those of you just joining us, I am talking with Joe Dorsey, the subject of the book Joe's Dash, From $1 Million Drug Busts to Multi-Million Dollar Collections for the Las Vegas Casinos. One of the most interesting roles that you had with casinos was collecting outstanding debts from customers. I mean, for me, I think I was looking at it, and one of the most challenging things I was thinking of when collecting debts from other countries is the laws and the culture. I mean, some of the countries that you had to go to, it was illegal for you to try and get debts from a casino from a customer. And also you had to deal with the culture in which, you know, the different ways of thinking. I mean, one of the guys wouldn't pay you because he wanted to get written apologies from casino executives. Are those the two most important things to understand when you're collecting for a casino, the laws and the culture?
Yes, it is. Yeah, number one, the laws are what dictate what you can do, or you're going to end up in a jailhouse over there eating rice and fish heads, and you don't want that. Trust me. And the culture, I was fortunate. All my buddies from DEA had been up and promoted, and they were all over Southeast Asia, all over Asia. And so if I needed assistance for, say, you know, I'm going over there collecting $1 million, and these cops over there, they make $1,400 a year. My DEA buddies, they hooked me up with the, the higher command guys in the national police usually, and they would assign guys to me. But the DEA guys would educate me on the culture. Mm-hmm. I'll tell you what, the person that educated me on the Japanese culture in Japan was an active member working for the U.S. government who went to work for General MacArthur when he went in to manage the Japanese country after World War II in 1945. So this person was just, I knew everything about Japanese people. And you take that knowledge. And then, but the one thing you don't do is you don't want to go out and be a thug. Mm-hmm. And so you got to pay, because they don't. I happened to start in 1988. It's when the economy collapsed in Japan. And all these guys they were all players before, and they paid. And, you know, they were millionaires, and they're going to be millionaires again. So I don't want to alienate them. I want them to come back, but I'm going to give them the best way to pay us back. And it worked, mm-hmm. except in one case, one guy, he was just a real. He owed $500,000. He they put up $500,000, mm-hmm. and then they get $500,000 in credit. So I go to him, and he's a real schmuck. I mean, this guy. It was my fault. I wasn't even there when he lost the money. But how can it be my fault? And finally, I said to him, I said, "Okay, here's how it's going to work." And I took that at 1099 form, and I said, "You owe us $500,000, but this 1099 form here says that we're going to forgive $100,000 of that debt, and we're going to, of course, the rest of these forms, one will go to us, one will go to the United States IRS, and the other one will go to the Japanese tax authority." At that time, there was a guy by the name of Mizuno who owned a country club here in Las Vegas. The Japanese authorities grabbed him on a tax problem. He went to jail for 2 years before they even heard the case. I explained that to this guy, and you could see his mind going. and he's going, "Oh, man, not only do I have to explain the $500,000, I got to explain where I got the $500,000 to get the $500,000, to the tax authority." He says, "Well, can we make a deal that I only pay the $400?" I said, "No, we're not doing that. We had to do a lot of traveling and back and forth to get this now." And he paid the $500,000.
Wow. How dangerous was your job? I mean, I remember a story from the book that you received a bag full of cash from a casino customer to settle their debt in the same room of a restaurant where there were Japanese organized crime members. I mean, how potentially dangerous were these collection trips that you made?
Well, it really depended on, the country. But in Japan, I knew the customers very well, most of them. Here's one of the, I'll give you that before I tell you about that organized crime. I had a guy who was devastated by the collapse of the economy in Japan. Honorable guy. Used to come every quarter and gamble $1 million. I went to him, realized that, this guy can't pay. And I've got people that can check on his assets and stuff. And I said, do what you can when you can, okay? Something like 5 years later, that guy called me up. I wasn't even working at the casino anymore. And he called me up and said, I've got that $500,000. I said, okay, let me call the casino and set you up with somebody, and you can settle your debt. And you had people like that. I mean, you don't want to strong-arm people like that. So the story you're talking about, I had a lawyer with me because I had just settled a big debt in Hong Kong. Usually I didn't take lawyers. It was my way or the highway. I meet the guy. He owns a bunch of clubs in the Ginza, which is world famous for being expensive. And he's a nice guy. I know the guy. I've selected from him before. And I meet him in a section. He owed $300,000. And I met him in a section of his place that wasn't open yet. But you could see the bar and everything else going on. So I got the lawyer with me, and he's new. He didn't know anything about this stuff. So I went in, and a customer came up, brown shopping bag that you get at any store in the country, and he plops it on the table, and he starts taking out $300,000 in U.S. currency. And I said, whoa, hold it. I said, you don't have to count. I'm not counting that. Put it back in the bag. I said, I've been dealing with you for years. I said, you trust me? I'm going to go home and FedEx your markers back. He says, yeah, no problem. And I said, good. Well, at that time, a guy walked in a suit. There was about 5 other guys with him in suits. The customer that I was with runs over there, and he meets him and sits him down, and they're sitting talking. And I can tell they're talking. I don't miss much because of my working undercover. I know everything that's going on around me. So I'm looking over and I'm watching this guy, and you can see he's telling the guy that came in the suit who we are. So they're doing their thing and all that. And I said, okay, let's go to the lawyer. He says, I'm going to go over and say goodbye to the customer. I said, don't go near the customer. I said, stay away from him. So we get up, and I see the guy that's with the customer, and I see him, motion one of his guys. And now we're walking down this alleyway with $300,000 in cash. And I know that, I know who the guy was. The guy, I believe, was the head of the Yakuza for Tokyo. Mm-hmm. Okay? And I know that there ain't going to be a crime within 5 miles of the head of the Yakuza in Tokyo. So we're pretty safe going out there. And we got to the cab, put him in, and I turned, and he sent one of his bodyguards to follow us out to make sure we were all right. And I knew he was there. But the lawyer, he didn't notice him. And, I bowed and thanked him, and he did the same. And off we go to the hotel with a bag full of cash. And the lawyer is saying, why didn't you want me to meet him? I says, that guy looked like could be the head of the Yakuza. You go over there and want to shake his hand, get your picture taken. I said, your ganging days are over, pal. And who would take the pictures? I said, you don't know who's following this guy around. I said, come on. And so he was really excited. Well, then we're walking down the alley with all this money. I said, nobody's going to bother us. Yakuza guy was looking up for us, or whoever that guy was. I don't know whether he was in the Yakuza or not. And so he went through. He says, you do this all the time? And I said, yeah. He says, can you do it? And I said, very carefully. Let me tell you. and he was a mess, but he never asked the question.
Now, you were traveling a lot for your job, and it seems like you were always in Asia, even though you don't like Asian food, which, by the way, was the funniest part of your book. And by the way, if you certainly pick up Joe's Dash and read for the raccoon story. I'm just going to leave it at that. It's a tease for the readers. But you must have a very supportive wife with all your travels and things like that. Tell me about your family.
Well, it's just right now it's myself and Karen. I have 2 children from another marriage, and they live in California, and they're in their 50s now. And they're both doing exceptionally well career-wise, and they couldn't wait to read the book because they heard all the stories before. They want to see which ones I left out. And but there's just Karen. Karen, right today, after Karen was a singer. And she did a USO tour back in 1969 at Southeast Asia, and she performed all over Atlantic City. She was at the Claridge, and she was at the, is it Resorts International you have there?
Yep.
She sang there for a few years. She loved singing in Atlantic City. She said that the response from the customers or their people that go to see him is incredible. She says it's just totally... It was like doing a USO tour. You know, those guys over in Southeast, they hadn't seen a girl in a year. So, you know, they're going to stand on their head applauding and stuff. So, but she got tired of the travel. So when she was singing at Caesars, she quit, went to work over at the Hilton in VIP services. In Gomes, when we left there, he told me, he says, we're taking Karen with us. I says, yeah. He said she's going to be the director of VIP services. And then from there at the Dune, she was the director of entertainment. But she left there and went to work for a small place called Ellis Island Casino out here in Las Vegas. It's a locals place. Well, it used to be, not anymore. And went to work for Gary Ellis when he first bought the place from his father. It was a small place, had 15 slot machines and a restaurant. And now they have something like 24 village pub restaurants throughout the Las Vegas area and Ellis Island, and they're all doing exceptionally well. And Gary Ellis invented a system for slot tracking called marker tracks, and it's going to be huge. Trust me, it's going to go through the roof. And so when Karen went to work for him, he was just a small place, and she's been with him 32 years and expanded it, all his business to what it is today, and eventually became the president of the company. Now his 3 daughters have all graduated from colleges in California, and they're in there, and Karen right now is just basically an assistant to Gary, and the girls are running the property.
Joe, we don't have a lot of time left, but how can people get a copy of Joe's Dash from $1 Million Drug Bust to multi-million dollar collections for Las Vegas casinos? Would Amazon be the best place to get it?
Amazon is the best place. You can go to B. Dalton and places, but they're just going to order it for you.
Okay.
Or they can go to the publishing company.
Huntington Press, Las Vegas.
That's right. Good old Anthony Curtis.
Yep.
He's going to hate me for that one. He's good.
You got his name in on the interview, so he should be happy about it.
Oh, yeah. He's a great guy.
I
mean, you talk about guys, he got it, knows everything about gaming, especially games.
Mm-hmm.
This guy's it. This guy, he is the hero of that, pal. And, but anyway, that's where they can get it, and hopefully they will go out and buy it. It's a lot of people have, the reviews coming back are incredible. And that's not from family members. These are from people I don't even know. So,
Joe Dorsey, author of Joe's Dash, from $1 Million Drug Busts to multi-million dollar collections for Las Vegas casinos. Thanks for coming on and talking about the book and your life. It's an amazing story, and I urge everyone out there to pick up a copy of Joe's Dash. Thanks for talking with us about it.
I appreciate all your help, Dave, and Doug also. So I hopefully may be talking to you again.
I hope so. Well, that'll do it for us this week. I'll see you next time on House of Cards.
drag us by the chain.